Welcome in, welcome in. Let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing right. Let me get my camera on. Let me do my sound check. All right, let's go through it. Let's get rid of this intro. We don't need you no more. Intro gone. There we go. There we go. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, we looking good. We looking good. Let me do my last sound check, and then we're gonna get this show started. How everybody doing this morning? Let's check for it. All right, solid. There we go. I got sounds and stuff playing everywhere. All right, there we go. Got that intro off. How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing out there? All right, there we go. Get my life together over here, y'all. Getting my life together. All right, so y'all see it. Y'all see the thumbnail. Thumbnail is the NFL didn't want him. Y'all see Shedeur. So I put together an entire show that I was going to have today. And the show I was going to do today was definitely more Dillon Gabriel based. I noticed that a lot of people were coming to Dillon Gabriel's defense. And when I saw that, I was like, this doesn't make sense. So certain things just kind of trigger my thoughts. And when I saw so many people come into Dillon Gabriel's defense, I was like, I question that. And then I saw that Dillon Gabriel created just this media storm. Stephen A. Smith led First Take on Monday, speaking on Dillon Gabriel's performance and then Dillon Gabriel's comments. And after watching what Kevin Stefanski said on Sunday on his Zoom call, he said, oh, we'll let you know sometime this week. And then I saw that the Browns suddenly just released that Joe Flacco was the starter. He said he wanted to talk to the team. He said the guys are off Monday. Then they put that out. So I was like, okay, we are protecting Dillon Gabriel. So as the week went on, I started to look at more things, and I started to see that a lot of people were protecting Dillon Gabriel in a lot of different places. So that was going to be the basis of my show, because I was like, this doesn't make sense. A turnover is a turnover. A turnover is always bad. They're trying to make a turnover okay. So that kind of just perked. I was like, okay, something to pay attention to. Then we got a bombshell yesterday. Eric Dickerson saying that he has a good, legitimate, credible source that said the NFL was going to send a message to Shedeur and they weren't going to draft him. And that just threw everything. That threw a monkey wrench in everything I was going to do. So when that happened, this was me. This is my show. I was just like, the show I had lined up, I was like, that show isn't going to work anymore. I have to adapt. So I was up a little bit later, putting together this show where we're going to get to some Dillon Gabriel stuff first. The main event is the thumbnail, Shedeur Sanders, that's why you're here. We're going to get to that a little bit later, but we're going to go through Dillon Gabriel, them protecting him, and what I think that means. Then we're going to get to Eric Dickerson and his comments. Then I'm going to take you back to how I was already identifying and I was seeing that this was happening in real time. So I know I have a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new watchers. So I'm going to take you back to how I was around the time of the draft, and I was calling out in real time what I saw. And then we're going to break down the next barrier. So Albert Breer just came out and said, oh, he doesn't believe it's true. And you have people to just come out and deny it. Then you have other people to throw it in a conspiracy theory box. And one thing I always say is, or actually let me give you two things. The first one is, any person that automatically dismisses something that they don't have control over, that kind of makes my ears perk up. I kind of pay attention to it. And then the second thing is when a person is so quick to just throw you into a box, they're doing that so they can dismiss what you said. And when people do that, that's when I look a little bit more into whatever subject they're speaking on. So I believe even though a monkey wrench was thrown into what I was going to do for a show today, we still going to have a good show, y'all. We still going to have a good show. We're going to turn this thing around, and we're going to enjoy ourselves on this Friday morning going into the last week of the preseason for the Cleveland Browns and what they are going to be, doing. So remember, like, comment, subscribe. Remember, we're going to be listening to the Browns game tomorrow. It's at 1 p.m. I'll probably start the stream maybe 10 minutes or so prior to, just tell you guys what I'm looking for. We're going to listen. They set us up. Kevin Stefanski. Oh, man. Shedeur is not going to play until after Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel. I don't think Shedeur is going to get in until the second half of the game. So it's going to be a long stream, but we're going to be there. We're going to make sure we support 12. We're going to ride for 12. We're going to watch the game. We're going to see how he does. One thing, I'm saying this early. So, I'm always the person who I'll put out how I feel about something early. I'll put it out before everyone else. And then other people catch up to what I said, later. So the thing I'm going to put out there is I believe the excuses will be erased when people see Shedeur and Dillon go against the same defense. That's when they're not going to have the excuses. So they had the excuses. We saw people try to put down how Shedeur performed and big up Dillon Gabriel, even though he had the turnovers. But now they're not going to be able to do that. They're not gonna be able to do that. Sorry, got a little distraction there. And we're gonna break it down. So real time tomorrow, we'll be live. Like, comment, subscribe. Looking forward to watching another or listening to another game with y'all for the listening party. So shout out to you, Mrs. Brown. I don't want to mess up your first name, Mrs. Brown. Shout out to you. I appreciate it. All right, so that was our long open, but let's get this show started. So, just like I said, people are going to start to sound like me. This is going to be 92.3 The Fan. We're going to start out with them. So, 92.3 The Fan, they are sounding like I sounded a month ago. And let's listen to it and see what they say. This is about the QB competition in Cleveland.
4 quarterbacks to begin training camp. Stefanski said it would be a competition. He didn't go into specifics about, would this be 2 guys battling for the starting spot, 2 guys battling for the backup or the third string. He never went into great detail about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he was pressed on it, but there are people out there that were under the impression that, like Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel, but mostly Shedeur, had a chance to start week 1 against Cincinnati. And all the behavior of the reps in training camp, the way that they divided or allocated the reps in training camp, the personnel groups the quarterbacks were pairing up with, it would have led you to an obvious conclusion that Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel had no shot ever really to start week 1. This was not a fair quarterback competition. That really wasn't, by the behavior, by what people were seeing at camp every single day, by the beat reporters and what they were telling you, and by some of the leaks that came out eventually, which...
Man, I have my stuff on mute. Oh, my goodness. That's an L for me. Let me get my life together, y'all. Let me get my life together. So there was a QB competition. The QB competition was between people who we did not deem as good enough. So Shedeur Sanders was not part of the QB competition. We saw that based on the reps. We saw it was nothing he could do to move up the depth chart. We saw even when he was consistent, he performed, he looked well in practice, he couldn't move up the depth chart. So the Cleveland Browns were not giving Shedeur a chance. Everybody can agree to that. We're going to push that to the side. The QB competition was between Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel. And the loser in this entire situation is two of them. The Cleveland Browns front office who put this scheme together and Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel, let's do Kenny Pickett first. Kenny Pickett's been injured every year of his career, and what do you know? He gets injured again. So that's going to be an L. Dillon Gabriel, he was the person who the Browns were trying to get to be the starter, or I would say backup / fringe starter. Dillon Gabriel was the one who was put in position where he could move on the depth chart. He was the one who was given the opportunity. Whether we like it or not, that's what happened. Dillon Gabriel, he took a massive L. And the L that he took was because he got so many first-team reps. He got reps with the ones. He got reps with the twos. He actually got the most reps out of everybody since he's been here. So they gave Dillon Gabriel a true and fair shot, and he lost it. He lost the competition. He couldn't beat out an injured Kenny Pickett. And that's the person that we're supposed to believe is better than Shedeur Sanders. It ain't going to work. Nobody's believing it. So that's the quarterback competition that actually happened. And people are jumping past that because they don't see it in Dillon Gabriel, but for whatever reasons, the Browns claim that he's so far ahead. In one half of preseason football, it showed everything that they were putting out about Dillon Gabriel was inaccurate, and everything about they were putting out about Shedeur was inaccurate. One half of football is all it took for us to see that. So that was the QB competition. The Browns, that was a colossal failure. Them just kind of they put their thumb on the scale and they decided who was going to be part of the QB competition. So now everybody is saying this is a sham. This wasn't true. This was a faux quarterback competition. When I said it a month ago that the Cleveland Browns should have just picked the starter, picked the backup, and move forward, everybody said, no. I always felt that they were not going to give Shedeur a chance. So instead of getting everybody's hopes up, instead of using everybody for their interest in Shedeur for views, call it early. Then they put out Under Center, this quarterback competition, which that was poorly handled because you put your first episode out when Shedeur goes to Carolina. Your second episode is going to be Dillon Gabriel when he goes to play and all the media storm he created. So Dillon Gabriel threw a monkey wrench in it. And then a couple days later, you announce who your starting quarterback is. So we're seeing all these failures by the Browns. So that's why people are finally getting up to where I was a month ago. So to me, I look like the crazy one. I look like the one who took the heat. When I said the best thing that Brian Daboll could do was come out and name Russ the starter, he never received a question about if Jackson Dart was going to be the starter, when he's going to be the starter, and how he's progressing and things like that. And the Browns were the smartest in the room. They took an opposite approach, and you see it's been a failure. So that's going to be an L. Let's move this thing along. So now this is the media starting to see, man, they weren't truthful. They weren't honest with us. We saw that early, but that's okay. We're gonna give them a small pass, but not a big pass, a small pass. Let's move to the next thing. Let's get to Kevin Stefanski and things that he's been doing to protect Dillon Gabriel. And this is one thing I always pay attention to. I always pay attention to the person or thing that people try to protect because that's what they care about. They'll let you take bullets. They like Myles Garrett and his production. They didn't come out and try to protect Myles Garrett or defend Myles Garrett when he got that speeding ticket. They just let it be what it was. They let the media say what they were going to say. They didn't try to come out and protect him. Dillon Gabriel, they made a couple different efforts to protect Dillon Gabriel because he was given the opportunity and he couldn't take advantage of it. And we're starting to see cracks in the armor of Dillon Gabriel where he realizes his opportunity has slipped away. I'm saying this first. Y'all haven't heard this from nobody else. Look at Dillon Gabriel's first press conference in rookie minicamp. Look at his press conference he just did after the game in Carolina. We are seeing somebody who the pressure is too much for him. The pressure is too much. Let's get to this next clip. I believe we're going to Kevin Stefanski. So, this is Kevin Stefanski. Let me look at my little run through here to make sure I'm doing this in the right order for y'all. Let's see. Let's get this. Shout out to everybody for being here. This is a different time for me, 11 a.m. So, like, comment, subscribe. And I definitely interact with the chat. So, if you put your comments in the chat, I'm definitely reading them, definitely responding to them, definitely interacting with you. All right, so this is Kevin Stefanski. So, one thing I noticed was before the draft, the Browns could not say enough good things about Travis Hunter, only for them to already have a trade in place for Travis Hunter, or the pick that potentially could have been Travis Hunter. So that always stuck in my mind because everybody was caught off guard. Everybody thought the Browns were going with Travis Hunter. I didn't forget that. I just noted that. I noted that in my cap, and I said, if I ever see the Browns hyping up a person too much, I'm going to remember how they did that with the second overall pick. The person they're doing that with now is Kenny Pickett. This leads me to believe that they're going to try something different to keep Kenny Pickett on the roster because Dillon Gabriel wasn't able to take advantage of the opportunity they gave him. Let's get to Kevin Stefanski. What you got to say, Coach?
Joe will start the game. Dillon will play second. Shedeur will play third.
Is Isaiah Bond done enough that you're going to be able to look at him Saturday, you think?
He should be.
Okay, now I remember how I played this. I played this so we would know the order that the guys are going to be playing. All three are going to get to play. Joe's going to go first. They said between 20 and 25 snaps, depending on how things go. Then Dillon, then Shedeur. One question. I'm going to put this question out to y'all early, or we're going to get to it later. Can anybody explain to me why the Browns picked Shedeur Sanders? That's the question I got for y'all. That's one question I'm throwing out there early. I'm throwing that question out there for y'all. Can anybody tell me why the Browns picked Shedeur? So just throwing that out there. But we're going to get to it. Let's keep it rolling. I believe I got another Kevin Stefanski clip here as we get more into them protecting Dillon Gabriel.
Universal game, and what is the...
So this is going to be Kevin Stefanski on Sunday. This is his Zoom call that he did with reporters, and this is the spot where he's going to say when he's going to announce the starter for the season and when he's going to talk about plans for this preseason game.
The timeline for naming week one starter.
Yeah, I want to get through the next couple days, but certainly that's something that we're going to do here sooner than later.
So when you say sooner than later, do you think we should expect something by the end of this week? Do you think it will be after?
I need to get the football team in here, talk to the players, those type of things. So we're working towards obviously week one. You know, that's part of what this week is about, getting our football team ready. So we'll make all those type of determinations in the next couple of days.
And then similarly, just roping in quarterbacks. Do you have any health update on Kenny and Shedeur? Do you expect them to increase their level of participation in practice this week?
I hope so. We really have to take those day by day, so I don't know where that ends up towards the end of the week, but I'm hopeful.
All right, so that was Kevin Stefanski on Sunday. So on Sunday, he needed a couple days. He was really vague. He needed to talk to the team. He also said in here that the guys weren't going to be in on Monday, so they would be back on Tuesday. They're running this like if it was a regular season week. So that's what Kevin said. So when I heard this on Sunday, I was like, all right, that's normal Kevin, nothing crazy. The problem is Dillon Gabriel started a storm. And let's get to it. Let's get to the storm.
Big time. Some of the stuff.
So this is going to be First Take. First Take, everybody knows the biggest sports show that comes on. First Take opened up Monday morning speaking on Dillon Gabriel's performance, comparing it to Shedeur, and then from there they went to Dillon Gabriel's comments. Now, Sunday, Kevin Stefanski needed time. He wasn't going to commit to when he was going to say who the starter was going to be. Monday, this happens. So let's get to it. First, this is going to be Orlowski trying to Dan Orlowski trying to make it seem like it's okay for Dillon Gabriel to throw interceptions. Let's get to that first. Remember, they're protecting Dillon Gabriel here. I don't think Kenny Pickett has any leverage. I think Kenny Pickett, he missed a good opportunity because he got injured. He missed a good opportunity because it seems like the Browns like him for whatever reason. I don't got faith in Kenny. And I don't think the Browns really have a lot of faith in Kenny because they could have picked up his fifth-year option, which would have paid him a lot more money, and they chose not to do it. So I always felt like Kenny Pickett was going to be the one who was going to be out.
Stuff that he didn't do in college, he did at the NFL, the manipulation of the defenses. And so I'd push back on the interception thing. I know the interception got a lot of play over the weekend. At the end of the day, the quarterback is the person who has the ball with the final decision. No question. This interception happens a lot because of the lack of spacing. I think the poor decision by the flat route runner kind of messes with the quarterback. So I really don't put that. He pulls his arms back right as the ball's passing him. So this is a lack of communication, but I don't put this on the quarterback as oh my gosh, this is, I don't. The fumble I'm going to give to you. The fumble I do believe is Dillon Gabriel's. That's a very easy thing to fix with his footwork. But
so you see right there, Stephen A is like, nope, I'm not going for that. I'm not letting you get away. He made a bad decision. The quarterback has the ball in his hand. Quarterback, the number one job as a quarterback is decision making. And Dillon Gabriel made a bad decision. And this is when I was seeing that they were going to protect him like that wasn't a poor decision. And that's when I started thinking, this is something. This is something to kind of just remember, keep an eye on, because if you notice, Dillon Gabriel's thrown the most picks. Dillon Gabriel's thrown the most picks since he's been with the Cleveland Browns. More interceptions than any other quarterback that's been on the team during this time. So I was like, man, they're protecting him. That's weird. But let's get to how Stephen A is going to finish this segment. And this is where I knew the Browns were going to protect him.
The fumble I do believe is Dillon Gabriel's. That's a very easy thing to fix with his footwork. But that doesn't make me think that Gabriel played worse than Shedeur.
I'm sorry, Adam Schefter. I mean, stop the presses. See, Adam Schefter.
All right, that's not the right spot. Kenny Pickett, he wasn't a bad investment for the money if he could have did something with it. Let's get to... That's not the right spot. Let me find the right spot where Stephen A is going to talk about this. I don't think Stefanski is around the show. Explain a little bit more what you mean by that. Let me find one. Yeah, explain a little bit more what you mean by that while I find the spot where they're going to go into Dillon Gabriel's comments.
Understand that, and my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
Then after social media ran with the quote insinuating that Gabriel was alluding to his fellow quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, Gabriel was asked about the quote post-game and clarified his comments.
Yeah, first off, I'm all about our team, you know what I mean, and each other. I would never make that, and I've said it before, that's why it's interesting, but for me, I've explained it. Entertainers are you all, competitor. That's what I am and all my teammates, and we both have jobs to do. So that's it.
All right, our front office insider Mike Tannenbaum here joining the party. Mike T, you heard Dillon Gabriel right there. What was your reaction to the comments?
I mean, I was surprised and disappointed. Dillon Gabriel really comported himself really well while he was in college. Those comments really fell short on a number of levels. Look, as a GM, I would sit down and say, hey, your only job is to get better as a rookie quarterback. Worry about yourself and compliment your teammates, compliment your coaches. You shouldn't be talking about a teammate or the media, which he tried to clean up afterwards. So he's just trying to make the team. He had a pretty good start despite 2 turnovers. So that, to me, was a little bit out of character, and that was really unacceptable. I'm glad he tried to change things afterwards, but I'd be surprised if we heard him say anything close to that moving forward.
Yes.
So you see how this is the first time Dillon Gabriel is really facing he's being shown in a negative light. So he's already going after the media, and he hasn't really done anything to prove the media wrong based on their assessment of him. And now he's taking shots at the media. So you see the first person, not good. Let's see if Stephen A is next. Let's see what Stephen A says about it.
Stephen A, it got really messy on social media. People just assuming that Dillon Gabriel was talking about Shedeur Sanders. What was your reaction?
Far beyond the core, the parameters of a football field. People are competing. We compete here on television. You compete with radio shows. You compete on Wall Street. You compete on Madison Avenue. Everything, especially in America, as it pertains to a capitalistic society, involves competition. To the victor goes the spoils. There are people that are, Jimmy Johnson said it best. He said, I will be very, very consistent in treating you as inconsistently as possible. Those who produce get treated differently than those who don't. What he said echoes the mentality of all of America practically, and most certainly the world, as we see things being globalized more and more every day. It was a stupid, idiotic, immature comment, because clearly you were feeling the heat because a lot of people was talking about how Shedeur should be QB number 2. But I know he was not talking about Shedeur Sanders. He was talking about the media. Here's the problem. You've now heightened the level of scrutiny coming your way because the media, including myself, heard what you said. So in other words, it's entertainment. It's not competition, really. So when you go out there and you compete like trash, because you will have days when you look like that, we're going to remember those comments. And we're going to remember the shot that you took at the fourth estate, which is the media institution. Whether we like to or not, some of us will be kind, like myself, because we don't want to do that to you. Others will be merciless. But in the end, no one will be wrong, because who instigated that fury against you? It would be you. Very, very idiotic and stupid for you to say what you said.
So y'all see, the biggest sports show, this is how they opened up on Monday. Speaking on Dillon Gabriel, a little bit about his performance, not giving him a pass for his turnover and interception. And then Stephen A is talking about how he's calling out the media and how the media won't forget it, and he's creating a problem. So this is why I say the Browns were starting to protect him. Okay, got you. Okay, I agree with that, yes. I think Kevin Stefanski can make certain decisions, but he doesn't have full reign of the team. So I definitely agree with you. I agree with you there. All right, so that's when they started to change how they were speaking on Dillon Gabriel. After this happened, a couple hours later, that's when the Browns put the press release out. Remember, this is Monday, that they're going to now name Joe Flacco the starter. And that was to clean up the mess that Dillon Gabriel made. Early on, we heard all those things about Shedeur, how would he fit in the locker room, how would other guys get along with him. We heard all these things, arrogant. We heard all these things. What do you know that the person who's supposed to be polished, who is supposed to be so good on the whiteboard, so good with speaking to everybody, the higher floor quarterback, played at 3 different colleges, been on big stages, he's the first one to cause a media storm in a negative way. So, hey, that's going to be an L for Dillon Gabriel. And we're going to keep this thing moving forward. We're going to keep it moving forward. So this is when I started to see the tables turn for Dillon, and I went further. I said, okay, why are they protecting him? Maybe he is. I do see a sense of false bravado in Dillon Gabriel. I don't believe he has that natural confidence that Shedeur has. You can see if you compare and contrast how they carry themselves. You can see one seems to be true, one seems to be kind of playing a role, kind of faking it till they make it. I'll let y'all determine which one is which. So I just start paying attention to how everybody's talking about him. Now let's get to Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. They say something on here every week I could talk about, but I don't want to keep going to the same well every week. But let's get to what they had to say. So this is going to be when they are grading how Shedeur and Dillon performed. Remember, y'all going to hear me say this a lot. You have to have a philosophy with how you speak on things. Jay is going to give Dillon Gabriel a B. Let's get to it. It's going to be a lot of yapping, but we're going to get to him giving Dillon Gabriel a B despite the 2 turnovers. And then we're going to post some receipts on Jay and how he really feels about turnovers. So then you got to ask yourself why.
With Shedeur, I said, I look at the stats. Stats are very important. Those are the analytics. That's what we can take away and we can discuss. But first, I want to talk about did he look like he could play quarterback in the NFL? Easily, yes. So did Shedeur. I thought Shedeur had more to prove to me in that area because I already felt like Dillon Gabriel was that guy. I saw him enough at Oregon to know that if he didn't make it in the NFL, it was going to be size-related, not skill set related. And I did not have the assessment that Shedeur Sanders was definitely going to be an NFL quarterback. He did prove something to me with his first start. For me, the scale on Dillon Gabriel was I basically already had reached that assessment based on how I watched him play against high-level competition on a week-in and week-out basis at Oregon and thrive. So I didn't need to see that. But he did check that box. He looks the part. His footwork was fine. I'm still concerned about his size. There were times where I felt like he was throwing the ball, like just his launch angle, if you will. Mm-hmm. To me, when a guy is 6'5", he can throw down to a receiver coming over the middle. When you can't throw that ball down, you can't throw that ball.
And that's why Gabriel, a lot of his misses are high.
100%. And you kind of get it, but those are the kind of balls that get picked. So I would say, and there's nothing he can do about his size. He's 5'11". That's what he is. He's going to be that tomorrow. That's never going to change, and that's always going to be top of my list of concerns for Dillon Gabriel. As for the grade, I give him a B-. I think C- just a tick above a D. That's really harsh, bro. That's harsh. When you complete 72% of your passes, and on the pick, I always say on picks too, always.
So I was watching this live as it happened. I was doing a listening party. I do listening parties for all Browns games. I'll usually start those streams 10 to 15 minutes prior to the game starting. I watched it live. My assessment of Gabriel in that game was I gave him an A for the first quarter. The first quarter, they had that very long drive. He was on time. He was on target. I think he made his best throws on that first drive. From there, it slowly started to get worse and worse as the game progressed. And once he threw the pick, and I said this live, I said, okay, he should have threw that ball away. He should have never thrown it. I started to move his grade down. Then when he had the fumble, I was like, okay, so this is the one who we're supposed to believe he has the processes down and he is better set up to perform. And I was like, okay, we got to cut it. Then I saw people making excuses for it. People were coming out saying it was the running back and all this stuff. I went back and I watched the all 22 of both games, his game and Shedeur's game. First off, the play where Dillon Gabriel threw the interception, Shedeur ran that play for a touchdown. Tyler Huntley ran that play, and he hit the first read for a completion. So all three of them ran the play. So this is not they're running different plays like people want you to believe. Then I looked at the running play. The running play that they ran that running play prior to that. So that's how I immediately saw the problem was with Gabriel. And then if you watch the play, Gabriel's doing all these like choppy steps to try to get to the point. That lets me know he was the one that was in the wrong. And if you look at the angle of where the running back is cutting, there's no way that could be an inside because they had like a trap block right there. So the running back would have ran right into that trap block. So that wasn't right. So I saw that and I was like, okay, this is odd. Dillon's messing up. I was like, people aren't going back and watching it. So we just saw Jay give him a pass and give him a B-, even though he had those 2 turnovers. But if y'all know me, y'all know I'm always pulling receipts on people. I'm pulling receipts longer than CVS. Receipts just printing. Receipts is printing. I'm always pulling them out because people get up here, they say one thing one week, they say something else another week, and they're so much of a contrarian, they don't even recognize what they say. So Jay, oh man, I'm sorry, but we got to do it to you. Let's go back to Jay in a very long argument about a new stat that, funny enough, we're going to use against Jason Lloyd that he brought up. It's funny, man. But this is Jay arguing about turnovers.
Is got the clutch gene like no one I've ever seen. But to be a contrarian, I'm not sure that I buy that EPA is definitively number one.
Okay.
In determining team success. And here's I spent 10 minutes on this. Mm-hmm. I should have spent longer. Here's what I found out. I just looked at the turnover ratio at the end of the season. The top 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all made the playoffs. 13 of the top 15 made the playoffs. There's 14 playoff teams.
Yeah.
13 of the top 15 all made the playoffs, predicting absolute team success. The 2 that were in the top 15 that did not make the playoffs, Chicago at 10, not quite sure how that happened. Maybe their defense, I didn't look, I should have. Maybe their defense just had a lot of takeaways. And because I know that they had a lot of giveaways. Cincinnati was top 14. To me, Cincinnati, and this isn't close, was the best team in the NFL not to make the playoffs this year.
Certainly the best offense.
Cincinnati. So if Cincinnati had made the playoffs, you would be able to say that 13 of the 14 teams that made the playoffs were in the top 14 in turnover ratio. The 2 teams that were not in the top 14 that made the playoffs, the only 2, were Washington, they were 15th, Tampa Bay was 20th. The bottom 2 teams in the NFL in playoff ratio, or in turnover margin, Cleveland and Tennessee. So, and the reason I like this more, and it's kind of like because this also greatly takes into account the play of the quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, not kind of, it really is using a lot of what you're talking about, quarterback efficiency.
You triggered
but it
my
also,
trap card.
Jay. So last year, you were talking about why the Browns didn't have success in their season, and you said it's because of turnover ratio. And a lot of that was because they had so many turnovers and they couldn't create turnovers. But then when it comes to Dillon Gabriel, you are overlooking his 2 turnovers that led directly to the other team scoring points. It's too easy, y'all. It's too easy. They don't have a philosophy. My philosophy on turnovers is this. In the NFL, turnovers are bad, period. That's where the sentence stops. When you get into this web of trying to put the blame on this person for the turnover, put the blame on that person for the turnover, so you can protect somebody, you end up like Jay. 6 months ago, turnovers bad. 6 months later, I thought Dillon Gabriel was a pro quarterback, and his turnovers are okay because they're not all his fault. It's not going to work. And these are reasons why people question the Cleveland Browns. They question the Cleveland Browns media. They question the beat reporters. And everybody speaking on the Cleveland Browns for a long time, because this week I've never heard people defend turnovers so much in my life. Never heard it. Have y'all heard it? Have y'all heard people defend quarterback have 2 turnovers this much in your life? Because I haven't. And these are all the things that make people question you. You say, okay. So that was an easy one. That was a layup. As soon as I saw Jay making that argument and saying that a B- for Dillon Gabriel was what he graded him despite the turnovers, I knew, because I have already seen Jay argue about turnovers, because last year Jameis had so many turnovers, I knew he stepped in and put his foot in his mouth. So that was an easy one. Remember, they on this circuit. They trying to protect Dillon Gabriel. Let's get to the next one. Now we got Jason Lloyd. Jason Lloyd is the one sitting right there. Jason Lloyd is going to be the one who gives the stat that he believes determine true success for an NFL quarterback. You might ask, why am I bringing this up? Because, of course, Jason Lloyd stepped in it too. Let's go, Jason Lloyd.
Back do with the ball in his hands. And the best quarterbacks can overcome turnovers. Is essentially it. Nobody is saying turnovers are not important. I am not saying that.
You're saying this is more important.
This is more important. And really, I think in Cleveland, and so I started this as like I wanted this to be a Cleveland piece.
I hope y'all caught that. EPA per dropback is more important than turnovers, is what he just said. So let's see what he says next.
Obviously, the Browns looking for a quarterback, so I wanted to try and marry it to Cleveland.
Right.
And the numbers that came back, it was like, no, this is more of a national piece. And you could lose the turnover battle, but if you win the EPA per dropback differential, which is basically your quarterback's numbers against the opposing team's quarterbacks. If your quarterback wins
Can you explain
on dropbacks,
briefly how that EPA is
so there's 100 different variations.
Okay, so don't go into it.
Well, no. So for this, the reason I like EPA per dropback is it does take turnovers into account.
Right, yeah.
And as Bull and I were talking before the show, there's really nothing subjective about it. It's down and distance, it's time on the clock, it's score, it's third down, fourth down. It's all of those factors factored in. So you don't necessarily get credit for garbage time passes. But you do get credit for 4th and 3, converting on 4th and 3. You get dinged for turnovers. So it takes turnovers into account while measuring it against turnovers. So if you win the EPA per dropback differential, if your quarterback is better than their quarterback, that's more important than if you lose the turnover battle. And we saw that with Kansas City Buffalo. Kansas City lost the turnover battle and won the game because Mahomes, statistically, was better than Josh Allen.
By a little or by a lot? To me, I thought they played.
This is key. Listen to how he's setting this up. Listen to how he's setting this up. He went to when the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Buffalo Bills in it was that AFC Championship game. That's what they're talking about here. So he's saying this is the most important stat. Remember, it's a reason. Hey, I give you all the answers to the test.
Played
pretty close. It was one of Mahomes' top 10 performances of his career. So it was by
a substantial margin.
I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but Josh didn't play poorly at all.
No.
But Mahomes was better.
Okay. So even when you look at that, say for instance, Josh.
So okay, y'all heard the point. Y'all heard what he said. You heard how he feels about it. They're going to put a graphic together on EPA per dropback. It's probably not making sense why I'm doing this, but y'all going to see why later. So let's get to the graphic. Let's see.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
So EPA is expected points added on every play.
And before we dissect this, Jason sent me some numbers. I just want to put these graphics on the screen. These are the top 5 quarterbacks this season and expected points added per dropback. They just take this full. You don't have to box it or anything. But Lamar, number 1 in the league at 0.31. Jared Goff, 0.27. Josh Allen was 3rd. Tua was 4th. And Brock Purdy was 5th. So you take the next graphic.
So check out, these numbers going to look a little funky. So 0.31. I don't know why they put the zeros there for all of them. It could just be 0.31, but that's how it comes up when you actually are looking for this. So these are the top 5 last year. Now they're going to show the bottom 5.
These were the bottom 5 in EPA per dropback this season. Anthony Richardson in the negatives.
Pay attention to the negatives. Y'all see the negatives right there, right? Now that's all we need from this. I just wanted to show y'all. Jason Lloyd thought that this was such a great thing to use to determine how good a quarterback did. But now when Jason Lloyd is going to be looking at how Shedeur performed and how Dillon Gabriel performed, guess what he's not going to use? If you said EPA per drop back, you got it right, because he's not going to use that, and there's a reason why. Let's get to the next one. This is going to be Jason Lloyd speaking on how the quarterbacks performed.
Back here, because I think it'll be fun for us to discuss some of that. You pointed out in your column this morning some advanced numbers, some analytics that may show Dillon being further ahead of being ready to play than Shedeur based off their 2 preseason games. And granted,
I agree. Jason is fake. He jumps all over the place, and he doesn't have an opinion. So he uses everybody else's opinion and put it in place of his opinion. So now you see how he was talking about the EPA per dropback. He didn't use EPA per dropback for a very specific reason, and he has new stats that he's going to use to show that Dillon Gabriel was better than Shedeur and is more advanced than Shedeur. But y'all saw I showed y'all those stats for a reason.
And it's a small sample size, but do you want to explain?
I disagree with the assessment, your assessment there of Jason's numbers.
What?
Yeah, that's not even a real sample size. It's 4 throws.
Yeah,
I understand why you put it there. Yeah. I get it, but to say he's ahead based on those numbers.
No, he's ahead based on the fact that he's ahead. That's why he's ahead.
He's ahead because Kevin Stefanski thinks he's better.
That's why he's ahead.
Yeah, not because of those numbers.
But okay. So the one thing that I think sort of indicates that they trust Dillon more than they do Shedeur.
Y'all see how quick Bull called him out? I don't always agree with Bull, but Bull is he can smell kind of the BS when people are trying to BS them, and he called Jason out right away. Jason touching his ear, just signs of being uncomfortable. So let's see what Jason pulls. If he can pull the rabbit out the hat, y'all.
Browns use pre-snap motion 45% of the time on Dillon's plays, 31% of the time on Shedeur. On third down, it increased to 63% for Dillon, 18% for Shedeur. That has nothing to do with.
So listen to the stats he's using. He's using pre-snap motion to determine that Shedeur is more advanced. I mean, Shedeur is not as advanced as Dillon. You know, we just heard what he used. That's what he's using. And Bull called it out because it's only 4 plays he's able to grade and judge where that would prove true. So Bull is saying it's already a small sample size, and this is even less of a sample size. But y'all know what I did? I've been working. See, when I was going into how much they were trying to protect Dillon Gabriel this week, I said, you know what? Let me look up the stat that Jason thought was so important that he used it and said this is his new stat that he believes in more than anything else when he's looking at quarterback play. So, of course, he didn't bring up the EPA per dropback. Let me find it. I went and created a full-size graphic for y'all. Where did I put it? Did I put it here? All right, so if you're looking at the screen right now, I can't see the screen, but I put it up. I wanted to make it large enough so y'all can see it. EPA per dropback, Dillon Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders. Dillon Gabriel, remember those numbers we were talking about? Dillon Gabriel's was a negative 0.30, driven down by the pick 6 and a lost fumble because the EPA per dropback takes into account all of your plays. Shedeur Sanders was plus 0.20, boosted by 2 touchdowns and no turnovers. So, when everybody is trying to break down who had the better performance, all you have to do is use their words against them, and you will see the line where they're going above and beyond to protect Dillon Gabriel. Now, I know this was a long setup to show y'all how much they're doing to protect Dillon Gabriel. Now, when I see somebody who needs to be protected to that degree, to me, behind the scenes, that means that person is cracking. They're on the brink of falling apart. Now, if you look at Dillon Gabriel's press conference after the game, he was snappy. He was short. I said this already. I don't know why you are making this a thing. He had to go and speak to Shedeur about it on the plane. This is a person who is, the pressure is too much. The pressure is too much, and everybody sees it. And the only reason why this pressure is going to get worse is because the Browns are propping him up to be the savior. And he's not ready. He is not ready. So that was Jason Lloyd. Jason Lloyd is the double talker. He talks out of both sides of his mouth, and then he blames it on, well, this is what I think should happen, but this is what the Browns are going to do. And he does that so he can always come back and say he's right. He's giving himself 2 bites at the apple versus having one just going based on how he feels. So if Jason would have used this stat that he used to grade all quarterbacks last year, it would have showed that Shedeur Sanders performed dramatically better than Dillon Gabriel. Dramatically better. So I know that was long, and that was a long way to get there, but I had to get y'all to see that they are doing something different when it comes to Dillon Gabriel and the lengths they're willing to go to try to protect him. And that was just 2 examples. So we went with Jay Crawford, the examples he gave where he's playing contrarian, and then he had to come back and then try to give Dillon Gabriel a great grade. That was a L take. We saw Jason Lloyd, who is the king of, I talked to this person and they told me this. We saw him come up with this stat that he used last year or 6 months ago, and then 6 months later, he's not using that stat because it doesn't drive home the point that he is trying to make. So that's going to be another L. Now let's get to somebody who played in the NFL and how they view what the Browns should be doing at quarterback. So we got through some Cleveland people. We got through how they're showing their bias. We got through how they're trying to protect Dillon Gabriel. This is Gerald McCoy, Super Bowl champion. Let's get to what he thinks about the Browns quarterback situation. Let's go, Gerald.
So we don't know what he's doing in this offense. So right now, the battles between Shedeur and
Dillon Gabriel.
They both did really good things, but they both did some boneheaded rookie.
You're right. To me, Jason only speaks with confidence and like you can really believe he knows what he's speaking about when he talks about baseball. When he talks about football, You can tell he's just a person to get paid to write about football. They were having a conversation on that same episode. They were talking about like players who were extremely hyped up. He didn't know about Tavon Austin, who basically broke YouTube with his highlights in college. So he doesn't have that extensive knowledge of football, and it shows. That's why he's not confident in how he views it. He's always asking somebody else. And he also hides behind asking somebody else and using their title for clout for the reasons that he's saying. Like this week he said, I talked to an NFL coach. He didn't say former, current, any of those things. NFL coach, and NFL coach said Shedeur was late on the throws. Okay. Was this an offensive NFL coach? Was this a defensive NFL coach? Was this a coach who designed offenses? All those things are important. But he just said, he was late on throws. Then, even in that episode, Jason's going to ask Tyvis, do you think he was late on throws? Tyvis isn't going to agree with him. So, Jason is one of those people. The two weakest people on that show to me are Jason when it comes to football and basketball, and Jay Crawford. Jay Crawford wants to be a contrarian. He's just a Skip Bayless clone. So that's a failed strategy. Jason Lloyd is a person who doesn't have enough knowledge about it. He's just clocking in for work. So, and you see it. I think when you get to that point of whatever you're doing, you're just clocking in and going through the motions, and you don't have an understanding, and you're not getting better, then you should just move out the way and let somebody else jump in that spot. So let's get to Joe McCoy.
Things, however, if I'm picking, I'm going with Shedeur because he doesn't have that antsiness that you've seen from Dillon Gabriel. Like that interception he threw on the sideline was just kind of like a antsy, like, I just got to do something. Whereas Shedeur is more like, if it's not there, just throw the ball away. Or I might just take the sack. But I'm not just going to force it. So if I need a number two that's more patient, that I can trust when chaos ensues, if I'm the coach, I'm going with Shedeur.
Well, and again, as you pointed out, not a surprise that Flacco is the week one starter. I said in our...
So I was watching the game, and I was doing a listening party last Saturday, and immediately I was like, Dillon Gabriel has happy feet. His feet aren't set. A quarterback's feet tell you basically what their mind is thinking. So if you're watching the game and you're like, is this quarterback confident? Look at their feet. Look at how they move around the pocket. That tells you the story. That's a cheat code. Just look at their feet. So Dillon Gabriel started off the game. His feet weren't good. Then I'm watching the game, and I was like, okay, he had the turnover, which was a poor decision. He knew it was a poor decision. He did minimal effort on trying to stop the guy run the pick six back. And I was like, let me see how he responds to that. And as soon as things got murky and they took DeJuan Jones out of left tackle, Dillon Gabriel's play just went down and down and down. So that means what I take from that is this is a player who needs the perfect environment to thrive in. And the NFL rarely offers you the perfect environment. So that's my assessment there. That was the first hour or so, just about 55 minutes in this thing. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all for, liking the video. Shout out to y'all for your interaction, commenting. I appreciate it. It definitely makes it better when we got people here who are tapped in. So shout out to y'all. Also, just remember, tomorrow I'll be live. I'll probably go live about 12:50. We'll be doing a live listening party. So even if you're watching the game on your TV and you want to see how other people are speaking on things that they are seeing, we had a very nice turnout last week. So this week you can tap in. So like, comment, subscribe so you can be notified when I go live and we do that live listening party. You'll get my analysis on the spot, in the spot. A lot of people, they got to go back and come back. I'm giving you analysis on the spot during the game, what I'm seeing. So definitely tap in for that. So we went through how they're trying to protect Dillon Gabriel, and then now we're going to get into the Shedeur Sanders side of things. So let's go here. Also, another thing that Gerald McCoy said, he would go with Shedeur because Shedeur is more calm in the pocket. Very key. Your quarterback has to be calm in the pocket. If you're not calm in the pocket, you're going to rush through reads. You're not going to view the whole field. You're going to miss assignments. So you need a calm quarterback. Yeah, you gotta be careful over there, Franklin K. My bot don't play. My bot is super aggressive, especially with all caps and stuff like that. This is going to be Shedeur responding to a second part of the question, how he views things with Dillon Gabriel. Let me know. What do y'all think? Was Dillon Gabriel taking a shot at Shedeur? Was he taking a shot at the media? What do y'all think? Which one was it? Let's see what Shedeur has to say.
When he told you it wasn't on you, did I believe him? Yeah. I mean, I feel like you're trying to start stuff now. I feel like you're trying to start stuff. I mean, he's doing his job. He's supposed to. Do I feel like he did? I don't know. And that's not on me to sit here and be like, oh, he did, he didn't. That's not going to change my life in any way.
What's it been like to work with him this camp, this preseason?
It's great competition. Every day you go out there, get a completion, and just how it is for everybody else in the room.
So, no, frankly, you good. That's just my bot. My bot is super aggressive. So it was, I believe it was the all caps. Let's see. Let's check out your message. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger. Love. Yeah, shout out to you. I just have a super aggressive bot because the same way people come in and they show love in the chat. When you're speaking on Shedeur, people don't like to hear this, but it's 100% facts. Shedeur is polarizing. As much as we have people that love and adore Shedeur, we have Shedeur haters on a different level where they go crazy in people's chats. So my bot is just aggressive and it's just looking out for, somebody ruin the experience for everybody else, spamming the chat. So no disrespect or anything taken from you. So just shout out to you. Now, when it comes to Shedeur could have said, yeah, I agree, it wasn't about me, or no, it wasn't. He just said, hey, that ain't up to him. I like it. Shedeur is helping the Browns out on so many different levels. He knows the power of his influence. He knows that he has a following on a different level, and he is making sure not to throw the Browns under the bus, because he could be throwing the Browns under the bus with how they've been doing things, how they've handled things, and he is not doing that. So you got to appreciate, I know the Browns appreciate that him getting up there saying, hey, I'm just cooking, no rush for me to play, because if this was any other team and this was a true quarterback competition, the best man will win. And that's not what's happening in Cleveland. I didn't expect that to happen in Cleveland. We're going to take a look at the Colts. The Colts, they used a top 5 draft pick on Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is the prototypical quarterback that you probably would build if you could just create a quarterback. He's tall, he's fast, he's athletic, all those things. But he can't turn that into anything on the field. That's why during pre-draft, when everybody was saying things about Shedeur being athletic and all this stuff, I was like, how many times are y'all going to fall for the person who's overly athletic and never turns into anything in the NFL? It keeps happening over and over and over again. So I just don't believe in an overly athletic quarterback. Shedeur is doing them a lot of favors, so they have to be excited and happy with how he's not throwing them under the bus with how they have fumbled this situation. Definitely fumbled it. So let's get to the bombshell news that came out yesterday. Eric Dickerson and what he said. So this is the news that made me kind of condense what I had going on for my show, adjust some things, because this calls for a little bit deeper of a dive into it. So let's go here. This is what was said.
570 and had this to say about Shedeur Sanders.
And I'll tell you this much here, what I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him, do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source, And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that. Because they weren't going to draft him either. They weren't going to draft him.
Your thoughts, Albert?
Yeah, I always.
So before we get to Albert, y'all know how I feel about Albert. Before we get to Albert, let's just look at how the draft went down, how it played out, and if you don't believe what Eric Dickerson said, explain this to me. Why did the Browns take Shedeur Sanders in the draft? Why did they draft him? That's the question. That's the question. It's only one question. If you believe what he's saying is a lie, that's the question. Where is it at?
You ain't got the answers.
There it is.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers.
People don't have the answers to that question. It's one question. Why did the Browns take him? Now, from the time this happened, I always said if the Browns believed in Dillon Gabriel so much, why would they ever take Shedeur? Nobody can answer that question. Also, nobody can answer the question why they drafted him. This is what I believe. I believe the Browns, like everybody else, and how this draft played out, it seemed like Shedeur Sanders was not on these teams' draft board. It seemed like teams that needed a quarterback, they crossed out his name on the board. Because just look at it. We know about stuff that happened with the Giants. The Giants, I believe, are mainly responsible for these things that happened with Shedeur. So we saw that. Then you have the Saints. Early on, word was coming out the Saints were not going to draft Shedeur. Early on, and you like, man, y'all need a quarterback. Who y'all taking? Y'all not taking Shedeur. So to me, it seemed like that he was just off people's board. Then you look at teams who are on the fringe. You look at the Jets, who could have took Shedeur. You look at Seattle. You look at the Raiders, who all these people saying he's developmental prospect. If you got a quarterback in place, if you got a Geno Smith in place, why not take Shedeur late in the draft? If you got a Sam Darnold in place, you telling me Jalen Milroe is a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders? I'm not believing it. Look at their tape for the last 2 years in college. I'm not believing it. So to me, this draft was going on like Shedeur wasn't an option for teams. Move forward, go back to the Browns. So they took Dillon Gabriel. They had to sleep on it. Immediately, I said, it looks like Kevin Stefanski wanted Dillon Gabriel. He was big up in their family and stuff and all that stuff, saying hi to the mom. I was like, okay, because y'all see Kevin Stefanski. If you're new to the Browns, does Kevin Stefanski show any emotion? Does he ever, he rarely smiles, cracks jokes, all that stuff. When he was saying hi to the mom, I was like, that's different. So I made note of it. Guess whose job is on the line with this draft? If you said Andrew Berry, you are correct. Andrew Berry's job is on the line. To me, it's like two timelines that's happening with the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski seems like they told him no matter what you do, you got next year in the bags. That's how he's handling it. Andrew Berry, when he came out of that press conference and said, he can't sleep at night because of the Quinshon Judkins stuff and all this stuff, Andrew Berry is the one that seemed like he's feeling the pressure. He's feeling the pressure. So if you're the one that's feeling the pressure, your job could be on the line. You got to take that shot on a player who you deem as valuable. And remember, now, one thing about me, one of my strengths is my memory. If you go back to a well-lost video that they originally put out when they showed when Shedeur got the call from the Cleveland Browns, if you remember, Coach Prime said, let me speak to Mr. Berry. He didn't say, let me speak to Coach. He didn't say, let me speak to the owner. He said, let me speak to Mr. Berry. That was something for me where I always said, that's interesting. Also, during the call, Andrew Berry saying, you're going to come in, you're going to work, you're going to earn everything. To me, that was a show. He was putting on a show for the cameras when Andrew Berry was saying that stuff. So if you go through those things that I just laid out, which one makes more sense? That Shedeur just wasn't a good prospect and people didn't want his supporters or their backup quarterback to have a light shined on them? Or you had a bunch of teams who said, we're not taking him, and you had a general manager who was feeling the pressure and said, if I'm not 100% certain about Dillon Gabriel, I got to hedge my bet. Which one seems more likely? I would say hedging the bet, because I always said from the beginning they're hedging their bets. So let's see what Albert Beer has to say. Always be leery of people who speak in absolutes about things that they don't have control over. I'm dropping that nugget for y'all right before we get to Albert Beer. Let's see what Albert Beer has to say. Albert.
I always think these sorts of conspiracies are a little overdone. I don't think there was any conspiracy here. I think it's relatively simple what happened. I think the great majority of NFL teams did not view him as a first-round prospect, contrary to what had been out there for the year previous. And then I think what happens is once you get past the first round, you look at the history over the years, not a lot of quarterbacks go in the second or third rounds. It's just the reality of it, like that most teams look at it like if there's a guy who's going to be our long-term answer at the position, we just take him in the first round. And if a guy's not going to be your long-term answer at the position, then you probably aren't going to take him in the second or third round because you're going to be looking for a long-term answer at another position with those picks. So the fate of Shedeur Sanders, I think he fell out of the first round for football reasons. I think he kept falling for everything else, right? Like for the fact that most coaches look at their backup quarterbacks and say, I want you to blend in with the furniture. I don't want to notice that you're even here. That's the way, for better or worse, most teams approach the quarterback position, which I think to some degree short-circuited the careers of guys like Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick. So Shedeur's case was complicated going into the draft, but I don't think it was that complicated where there was some sort of weird conspiracy to keep him out of the league.
So we just heard a whole bunch of stuff. He went from it was simple to it was complicated to it wasn't a conspiracy. He all over the place. So I used to interview. I used to be a recruiter, interview thousands of people at this point. Once you ask a person a simple question, if it was simple, like he started off his answer, wouldn't he just say, I don't believe the conspiracy, and then he would just move forward? Think about it. Let me ask you a question. If somebody offers you something you don't like, so somebody offers you food you don't like, how long is that answer? If you're at work and they offer you to pick up overtime and you have plans that weekend, how simple is that answer? If you are out with your friends and they ask if you want to go to a certain place that you don't want to go to or do something that you don't want to do, how simple is that answer? So how do we go from this was a simple situation to I got to listen to over 2 minutes of you yapping trying to explain the simple situation to me? That's where I'm going to give you the L. What's one thing you didn't hear him say? One thing you didn't hear him say is, I speak to people in the NFL, and this is not true. You never heard him say that. When people were talking about Shedeur in his interviews and the stuff was coming out and they were saying he had headphones in while they were interviewing him and all this stuff, Coach Prime came out and said, that's not true. Why is that important? That's important because when stuff is just emphatically not true, it's only one answer, y'all. That's not true. Now, I would lean more, if we had to choose, Eric Dickerson, we believe what he said, or do we believe what Albert Beer said? It's no in the middle. The name of my podcast is Eliminate the Gray. There's no gray area in the middle for you to hide in. Put a 1 in the chat if you're on Eric Dickerson's side and you think the NFL has something to do with Shedeur Sanders dropping. Or put a 2 in the chat if you believe Albert Beer that this is a simple, complicated matter that just was football and off the field related. Even when you just put the answers side to side, one makes sense and one doesn't. And then you would say, okay, let's look at these billionaire owners. Let's look at, because when you look at situations like this, you got to say, is there a history? Is there a history of the NFL doing things like this? And if that answer is 1 in the chat, then you know that there is a history of this happening. So let's start here. Colin Kaepernick. We don't even got to go through the whole story of Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick sued the NFL. The NFL lost and had to pay him out of settlement. What does that mean? There was some form of collusion going on that went against Colin Kaepernick. Right now, we got text messages that were released. The NFLPA had to get rid of the 2 top people. Why? Collusion when it came to guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks. That's 2 examples I'm giving you all of collusion. Let's throw it back. Has there been other leagues where they've got in trouble for colluding? Let's go back to the NBA. The NBA got in trouble for colluding Jim Jackson, and he was going to sue the NBA when David Stern was still running it, and they found out about the collusion. So to just 100% dismiss that shows that you are just picking a side without even doing any type of analysis on is it a possibility that this could happen. And I would agree with y'all when I say it's a possibility that this could happen. Now, I used to be one of those people that would just give people grace and would say, man, these are billionaires. They did everything on the up and up to get there. As I get older and as I look at how things truly happen in life, people are way more reckless than we want to believe. I said it last week. The NFL has 2 cases that are in court right now with John Gruden that the NFL is going to appeal, but potentially he's going to get discovery. People are going to get to see the truth behind the NFL shield. You got Brian Flores. He was saying that there was discrimination. Other coaches joined that lawsuit. The NFL is going to appeal, but we're going to get to see how the NFL is truly ran. When you actively have cases like that going on, how can you just immediately dismiss what Eric Dickerson said? In any other field, nobody would just immediately dismiss that. They would say, is it a possibility? And is there a probability of this happening? Possibility, I would say automatically yes. Probability, I would say yes based on the history of them doing other things similar to this. So, Albert Breer, every time you come here, you always leave with the gift. The problem is the gift is always an L. Every time it's an L. Because he just takes the NFL side. He's the mouthpiece for NFL teams. And one thing I'm starting to realize is these reporters don't really have any value to the fan. These reporters only have value. These reporters only have value to the teams when they want to put a message out. Let's see. Just look at what guy has shown. My bad. My bot is pretty aggressive, but I got you. Essie. Just look at what God has shown. Understand, y'all. Let me see. Move out the way. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to it. There we go. Yah's plan is not Satan's. Don't like a rich black man and strong dad who raised strong son. What Prime has always called 12 grown. I agree. Look at what they said about Shedeur Sanders leading into the pre and post draft, and look at how he's handled himself. I said it months ago. I said people don't know Shedeur, and as they get to know Shedeur, they're going to question why they ever viewed Shedeur this way. Actually, let me pull it up. I got another clip. Let's see. Let's throw up this thumbnail real quick. Actually, let's do this. Give me a second, y'all.
All right, we got to play this. This is Eric Dickerson here. All right, we got to play this. This is Eric Dickerson here. Eric Dickerson's had some strong opinions.
Thank you for your patience. Now, 92.3 The Fan, they starting to sound more and more like me every single day. At times, they were like, oh, you just got to trust Stefanski, trust the Browns. Now they starting to question everything. It's kind of funny that they're questioning everything now. But this is them going through what we just listened to. Now, we saw how Albert Beer responded to it. Let's listen to how they respond to it. This 10 minutes long. Let's move this forward some.
Ever since I've known about it.
And the boycott or whatever. And go get him.
See, I have respect for Eric Dickerson as a football player, and I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't believe that. If he would have said that the NFL called and said, you better not draft this guy, don't do it, I would believe him because the Browns have not gone the way the NFL wants them to go here over the last few years. I think that's pretty clear. When it came to the guaranteed contract and some of the other stuff, I think the Browns have kind of done their own thing, and it's upset a lot of people in the NFL. If they would have said, you better not draft him or we're going to have a problem with you, and they drafted him anyway, I go, yeah, maybe that's really believable. Maybe that's really believable. I don't know what made him last to the 5th round, man. I have no idea. It is a weird-ass thing. And, again, maybe we'll see. Maybe he'll go out there at some point this year, and he's going to suck up.
So this is what people want to do. People just want to call it weird. They want to call it strange. They want to immediately dismiss somebody who's saying it could be this, but they don't offer you what else it could be. So if you're going to say no to this, tell me yes to what you think it is. Instead, you say, I don't know. It's an answer, but it's not a good answer. So that's what I think that's what his name is, Ken. That's what Ken is saying. He said, I don't think it's this, but I don't know what it is. Okay, that don't really make sense. So what? Tell him, Kanye.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers.
All right, let's get to Tony or Anthony. Let's see. Let's play his portion of it.
Up the room and then
making money, but when it comes to, doing everything they can to put their team in position to get a steal, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's just whatever edge they could possibly get, I laugh at these conspiracy theories every single time until the Lamar Jackson thing happened, when he had a chance to become, I guess, a restricted free agent, and all these quarterback-starved teams, not one of them even made an offer to the guy that has won 2 MVPs, really could have been 3. Let's be honest, last year might have been his best year. Could have been 3 MVPs, and not one other team in the NFL? Like, this league does have a way to collude. This team does have a way. Now, would they...
He's right. I totally forgot about the Lamar Jackson situation where nobody made an offer to Lamar. And the messed up part about the Lamar situation was you had teams like the Falcons. This was before the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins. The Falcons were basically saying they kind of didn't view him as an upgrade at quarterback or something to that effect. And this is right after the Falcons were involved in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. I totally forgot about that. So shout out to Anthony for bringing that up. We have multiple times where you can say that they've colluded. So for any person that just comes out and says no, they didn't, are you not believing their history of doing things prior that are very similar? So shout out to him, because I totally forgot to mention the Lamar Jackson situation.
They collude. Here's where he loses me. Why would they pick Shedeur Sanders? First of all, likable kid. I don't care. The people that don't pay attention don't think he's likable because they don't know anything about him. The people that called us about nepotism, and it's like, have you ever actually watched him deal with people in the community?
The most famous.
Q5, you got it. You are right. You are right, my friend. That's what it is. So I wanted to play it to that point once I thought about it. So I did a show. Let's see. This was 3 months ago, and it's very small on the screen. Let's see if I can make this bigger for you all. That doesn't help. I used to only stream in vertical. I used to do some stuff that it was when I wasn't when I was getting my footing. But I did this 3 months ago, and the title of this is "Don't Believe the Lies." Let's see. Actually, let's do this. Y'all gonna see me do this thing live. I'm gonna bring this up on my channel so y'all can see it. Mr. Note Yard. I always thought it was strange with the things that came out that the Giants were saying. And it's funny because I'm going to get to the Giants in here. So it's okay. I don't have to show it was bigger. But if you ever just decide, hey, I got, I used to do longer streams. All my streams used to be like right around an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours. All my streams was longer. I used to go in. So this is it right here. You can see it on the screen. It's a little small. But don't believe the lies. That is the title of this podcast that I did. So I'm going to actually start. This is me this is me right after the draft. And this is me breaking it down. A couple days before the draft. Or this is actually his Friday before the draft where he was talking about his trades and stuff like that. He's going to say very clearly where he knows Shedeur is not going. So let's get that.
In the first 2 days of the draft, and Giants move into the spot and take Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New York Giant. Shedeur Sanders is not going to.
You hear that? Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New York Giant.
Be a New Orleans Saint.
Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a New Orleans Saint. This is prior to the draft, and this is before the Giants took that last meeting with Shedeur. He was already saying this, and he was putting it out there. So why would you be going on these extra visits with a person you have no interest in taking?
Okay, so let's just address that now. We said to you the week after the combine that I was surprised that other networks weren't reporting what the information that came to me so easily. Shedeur Sanders is a good young man. Shedeur Sanders has always been respectful and everything else. Some interviews didn't go well, including with the New York Giants, I'm told now. And I think what happened early in the process, there was a feeling that they could handpick. I don't think. Coach Prime came out and said it himself, I'm going to handpick the places that my son can go.
So you see where the issue lies? So that's it right there. This is from, I did this on May 3rd. So that's when I actually was speaking on this. And when you go back to what I just played, so you have him right here, Anthony Lima, saying, why would they do this to him? The answers was always right there. The answers was there. So just to do a quick recap of what was happening, what Todd McShay was saying, Todd McShay said he wasn't going to the Giants, he wasn't going to the Saints. Now, later on in this episode, I'm going to break down how he wasn't going to the Steelers. So I was just breaking down how teams who needed a quarterback were coming right off the board, and it was because they had issues with what Coach Prime was saying pre-draft. So when you have guys in Cleveland who didn't follow Shedeur, they didn't pay attention, they're like, but why would they just pick Shedeur? They are looking at Shedeur how they view Shedeur now that he's a part of the Cleveland Browns. They're not looking how Shedeur was viewed around the draft, right after the draft when all this stuff was happening. So that's where the disconnect is. Let's see. I think he's going to say, so it seems like I was just putting it out there that, hey, that's what they took exception to. No, he's saying it right here. That's what they took exception to. They took exception to the fact that he came out and said that he was not going to allow his son to play for certain teams. And that's something that I'm going to keep saying. And I'm going to keep saying it because I want y'all to hear how many different people say this exact same thing. But then they want to say it's not because of Coach Prime. They want us to believe it's because he had poor interviews. Think about this. Shedeur Sanders had the custom cleats that were New York Giants colors for the bowl game that he warmed up in. Do you think that's the team that he wasn't going to give his all in the interview? He got custom cleats made. It was reported. Players. So you got to ask yourself, I've been asking these questions for months. I know I have a bunch of new viewers, a bunch of new subscribers. Shout out to all of y'all. Definitely appreciate y'all. But I know in some cases, everything is moving forward. Stuff is moving backwards. So sometimes I just want to get back and show y'all, like, this has been there. So this is why when I hear Eric Dickerson say something like that, I don't think it's outrageous. They think it's outrageous because they weren't following the story to the level that other people were following it. So let's see. I think I got Boomer Esiason in here. Man, I was going through everybody who was talking trash.
he played at, and I would say yeah, he played much above average at Colorado.
He played great at Colorado.
But when I watch the games, there's a lot. He's standing back there for 5 or 6 seconds.
Understood. I know you got to get rid of
So I'm going to stop it right there. That's just a lie. Because if you notice, the media also reported on Shedeur Sanders having the slowest time to actually throw a pass, which was right under 3 seconds. And he's saying he's center back for 5 to 6 seconds. If you watch Colorado, I think the offensive line was trying, but I don't think they were good as a unit. He faced so much pressure straight up the middle of the line, and he faced so much pressure from the tackles getting crumbled in. Remember, they actually changed the center route. The center that left, I believe he might have went to Virginia. I think his name was Cash Cleveland. He was a freshman that they actually put in at center. They also had their guard. They had their their right tackle. They pulled him in to guard, and they put in another tackle because they were trying to work through the fit of the offensive line. So that goes directly against what he's saying about this 5 to 6 seconds. So y'all see, this is throwback. This is throwback me. This is me going hard and me explaining my understanding of situations and how they didn't understand it. So if you don't have this knowledge of the situation, then you are saying, why Shedeur? Why would they ever do this to Shedeur? Shedeur is such a great kid. You got to go back. You got to go back to the time that it was happening. That's where people get lost in. People get caught up in where we are at this moment, and it's very hard for them to take their mind back to certain times and really put themselves in the thick of things and how it was at that time. So that's what they're missing. I got some more here. Boomer Esiason is going to say, he's going to talk about how teams took him off the board. Thanks. You just turned it over again. Sean Payton gone. After Sean Payton, my bad, Joe. I was going on a rant. That was 6 seconds. How many times you seen a college quarterback have that much time to throw the ball and can't make a decision? See, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to spin it on he can't make a decision. But we're not falling for that. Let's get to his next clip. And this is going to be way more telling. We got Boomer again. You see that? They took him off. Let's let it play.
And they took him off because the owner said take him off. I don't want that guy. Shedeur Sanders just torpedoed himself. His attitude off the field at the combine, his dad didn't help him either. You know, he was on podcast talking about this is my son. If I can get him to where I want to get him to, I'm going to do that. But, you know.
Are y'all seeing this? So you got to keep asking the question. As we go deeper and deeper into this and we pull more receipts, are you still sitting on that Albert Breer side, or are you firmly on the Eric Dickerson side once you start pulling the receipts? Once you start pulling receipts, I remember I titled this, Don't Believe the Lies. I was calling this out in real time. So I went through Todd McShay saying the teams he wasn't going to go to, Boomer Esiason saying that he knew about 4 teams that took him off the board. I'm like, just do the math. More and more teams just took him off the board before the draft. This is all before the draft that they're speaking on. So it's not hard to believe what Eric Dickerson is saying. Let's go forward. This is another one. I thought this was crazy and nobody really paid attention to it, but this is going to be about the Steelers.
I can't tell you where he was in a pecking order, Rich.
Now, this is, I believe it's a beat writer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Y'all know I watch everything on Chipmunk Mode. We're going to speed them up because now we're going to do some process of elimination, and we're going to show you how these teams are lying when they tell you they'll take a player if he can help them win. So let's go.
But I will tell you, despite what all the national people thought, they did not intend to draft him. You know, if he was there on the 6th round, and maybe, but, you know, the people that had him going to the Steelers and had him going at 21, that just wasn't going to happen. No quarterback was going at 21. That includes Jackson Dart, who they did have a first-round grade on.
Q5. It's one of those things where people look at what they think the perception of you is. So think about it like this. Take away everything that you know about Shedeur. Just take it away for a second. If I describe this person to you and you're making a football decision, would you look at this person in a positive or negative light? Oh, a budding rapper. They release music. They come out to their own songs. They have a signature celebration. They wear a lot of jewelry. I question if they really want to be a football player. I question if they care more about being, if they care more about being a celebrity. Now, if you don't know the player, that's a lot of variables where you like, dang, they might want to be a rapper. They making music. They wearing a lot of jewelry, doing all these celebrations. I don't know if they want to be a celebrity. That was the narrative that people were spreading about Shedeur. Do y'all remember pre-draft when they were saying they don't know if Shedeur loves football? Do y'all remember them saying that? When they were saying those things, I was like, are you serious? Did you watch how Shedeur got beat down in the first year that they played for Colorado, where he couldn't even finish the year? He didn't play that last game because of his back. He took all those sacks and he got up and he never complained. You telling me that's somebody who don't love it? It never made sense. But you fall in that trap of you are never doing your own research. You're reading the research that you get from other people. What people forget is the human element. The human element is they can have a bias walking into it. Hey, I got no defense for Dillon. When we drafted Dillon, I'm telling y'all, it was the first time in my life where I said, I don't know if I'm going to be a Browns fan if we're going to be going forward with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel. That night that I had to sleep going into the last day of the draft, I was like, this might be it. It might be time. Get rid of all the Brown stuff. Don't watch him no more. So I don't have Dillon Gabriel as this player that I'm looking at like he's going to be the savior of the franchise. I look at Dillon Gabriel like he's interchangeable. True. I look at Dillon Gabriel like he's interchangeable. It's 5 quarterbacks that come out every year who can give you what Dillon Gabriel gives you. Dillon Gabriel can probably give you one start a year. I'm not leaving that out. The first thing I said was when it comes to why people said why they did this to him, the first thing I brought up was his dad. I'm not leaving that out. I think people get caught up in the fact that Deion Sanders is his dad, and they let that cloud their judgment when they're looking at Shedeur Sanders. I don't miss that. I see that all day. So yeah, I don't miss that. It's easy. All right, I'm going to have to read some of y'all messages here because when the messages get a little bit long. All right, so let's start off. Dang, my bot just, D-Money, my bad. My bot did that. I'm going to read your messages out loud. Bot just went crazy there for a second. Okay. All right, so this is D-Money. No. What the real issue is when Deion Sanders was a superstar, he was valued so much to the point where he could treat owners like anything. So now they're taking it out on his son. I would agree with that. If you tell me all of that, this is a user unknown. If you tell me all of that and also tell me it's Deion's son, then it all makes sense. I'm also going to think he probably nice too if it's Deion's son. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Okay. That makes sense. Yes. Unknown user, that makes sense. In the context of when I was describing them, I got you. That makes sense. Yeah, my bot is very strict, but what I'll do is I can grab the messages and read them on this side. Valid points. Super valid points. True story. It's like, man, we gotta look at you. I'm going to bring in a family thing. I usually don't bring in family things. This is not family with me, but just think about, I'm going to give you all a scenario. I think it's kind of funny. Think about when the baby mama don't like the baby daddy, but the son or daughter looks just like the baby daddy, and she got to see the baby daddy in the son all the time. So, hey, user unknown. Hey, the bot is there because for the people who hate. But it'll tell the people even I agree with. It will say some stuff. Let me see. Somebody just got clipped right there. D-Money, let me read out your next one. Where did it go? Hey, stop. All right, let's see what we got. All right, let's see D-Money's. Corporations like the NFL don't like when people have more power than them. They like having all the power. That's why when their best player wants to leave, they send them to a bad team. That is a fact. That's a fact. So that was one thing that I said. I kept telling people this is about power. This is about power. Early on, I was saying this is about power because everything is about leverage. You know what I'm saying? Like in any negotiation, in any situation, you want the leverage and the power. So people were afraid of somebody coming. People were afraid of somebody coming into the NFL with all this money. And they're like, dang, so we can't use the money. So think about it. They're not just thinking about when they draft you. They're thinking about when you go to the next negotiation. If you're good, we can't dangle a lot of money or front load a contract or do some weird stuff with a contract like what happened to T. Higgins. You know what I'm saying? They can't do that stuff. So when you have a player that's coming in that already has that bargaining chip, that already has that bargaining power, they're intimidated by that because that's a tick of their leverage that's taken away. Look at Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones feel like, oh, I hold all the cards because I'm the owner. Jerry, the problem is in the NFL, when a player is at the caliber of Micah Parsons at that age, you don't hold the leverage. And Jerry Jones can't deal with the fact that he don't hold the leverage. This is a fact. D-Money, that's a great point. I'm going to read it out for if you listen to some podcasts. It's like I own the Lakers and Kobe wants to leave. I'm gonna send his ass to the Atlanta at that time. So the funny thing is when it comes to Kobe wanted out. He wanted to go to Chicago. At first, the Lakers weren't going to trade him. They weren't going to trade him. When the Lakers thought about trading Kobe, it was definitely not to where he wanted to go. They was going to actually swap Kobe. They contacted the Cavs to swap Kobe to send him to Cleveland. So you go from living in LA to go living in Cleveland. So it's not they're not sending you like, oh man, this is where you should go. This is a good landing spot for you. We care about where you land. No, that's not it. So that's how they do it. I don't know. See, a lot of people look at this. The Saints, their quarterback situation is trash. It's so trash. The Saints were the first team that came out, or reports came out that they weren't taking Shedeur. They were the first team. They were the very first team that were like, we're not taking Shedeur. I was like, dang, that's weird. But that was the reports pre-draft. This is what I think is going to happen. I think the Browns had a mastermind plan to basically put Shedeur. Yeah, Saints got it bad. They picked between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck is the quarterback who they get enamored with a quarterback, a random quarterback every year. They get drafted and they don't amount to nothing. That's Tyler Shuck of this year. I think the Browns wanted to just stash Shedeur, leave him, and then use him as the get out of jail free card if stuff goes bad. That's what is shown when it comes to the reps. That's what it shows with how they're doing things. See, this is what I want the Browns to do. I want the Browns to go through the gauntlet early on in the season. I don't want a quarterback that's not a rookie playing after week 6. The only way, it's only 2 records that we can have where a quarterback playing after week 6 is not a rookie for the Browns. If that quarterback, or if the Browns record is 5-1, or if the Browns record is 4-2. If the Browns are 3-3 after 6 weeks, it's time for change. That's just it. And actually, I'm going to flip this. I think Shedeur is the better quarterback between him and Dillon Gabriel. Surprise. But I want Dillon Gabriel to get to start first. And y'all probably said, dang, that's crazy. You want him, you know why I want him to go first? Because I don't believe in Dillon Gabriel. So I want when Shedeur gets his opportunity, he's just going to ride it out and play. So go ahead. Keep it the same way. Let Joe Flacco go out there. We know what he's going to do. Let Dillon Gabriel go second. I know what Dillon Gabriel's going to do. I don't have faith in him. I think Dillon Gabriel is going to look a lot like he's already looked in practice, and he's going to look the same way he looked in that game. You're going to say, man, he's serviceable. That's a fact. D-Money, that's a fact. Dillon Gabriel needs everything around him to be good. So if you look, so during the pre-draft, let's see. Let me read your last one because that was a good one for the podcast people. Joe Flacco reminds me of Brock Purdy mid. He's only looking good because his team put Jay Cutler on Joe's team. When they won the Super Bowl, they would have still win. I agree with that. I even view Dillon Gabriel that way. To me, Dillon Gabriel was only good in college because of the weapons he had around him. So when the Browns drafted Dillon Gabriel, I didn't hear anybody talk about Dillon Gabriel before that. When the Browns drafted him, I said, okay, Let me do all the research I can and look at all his tape. Unknown user, user unknown, you see. So I looked at all this Dillon Gabriel tape, and I was like, these are not Dillon Gabriel highlights. These are Tez Johnson highlights. The receiver, it was the tight end they had that I thought the Browns might take. It was all their highlights. Those are the people. I was like, his receivers and his tight ends are so good that those are the highlights. And he had a great offensive line. Dillon Gabriel has so much time, and it was weird. It was like when you watch Dillon Gabriel highlights in Oregon, it was like they pass the block, but they open lanes almost like it was a running play so he can have lanes down the field. And you got to 100% adjust how your team plays for you to run that style of offense in the NFL, and it won't work. You can't go from Joe Flacco starting the season, which you don't have to do anything based on his physical stature, to going to Dillon Gabriel where you got to do so much based on the physical stature. So I want the Browns, I want them to stick to their plan. Look at their plan when it was coming into the preseason. Everybody was saying, oh, Kenny Pickett's going to be the guy. Kenny Pickett's been injured every year. Kenny Pickett got injured. Joe Flacco's going to be the starter. I thought he was going to be the starter. Now they're saying, oh, no, I got to check that out. D-Money, what did the Bucs GM say about Mike Evans when they drafted him? But why you typing that? I'll say this. I want Dillon Gabriel to go out there. Dillon Gabriel's going to go out there, and all the excuses that they're making for Dillon Gabriel are going to be there, because then they can't say, oh, it's a short sample size. They can't say, oh, it's not in real live games. Dillon Gabriel, go out there. Because to me, Dillon Gabriel looks like a player. Dillon Gabriel is on the brink of kind of being in the Bryce Young situation, even though Bryce Young was number one overall pick. All right, let me read it from over here. They basically said they wanted Johnny Manziel, but when they saw every clip, they noticed that Mike Evans was a superstar, and they were right. Oh, my goodness. Talk about it. Talk about it. That's how I view Dillon Gabriel. So they view him the same way. Dang, I never saw that clip, but that's so true, D-Money. So I want Dillon Gabriel to go out there, and then I want Shedeur, because I want Shedeur to get that runway without looking over his shoulder, so he can go in with that confidence that he wanted to in Carolina. Shedeur's confidence was on another level because he knew it wasn't a short leash and it was going to pull him out. So when he gets his opportunity to start, I want him to go into the game looking at that exact same way. I want him to not be thinking about, if I make a mistake, they're going to be trying to put Dillon Gabriel back in, or we got Kenny Pickett waiting who's not about to be injured no more, or nope. I want, what's the old saying? The first shall be last and the last shall be first. I want him to go last. I want them to go through all their other options of who they thought was better. That's what I want. And I think I think Shedeur could be the starter by week 8 or 9. I think he could be the starter if they do it the way that I'm saying they do it. So if they go Flacco first. I don't think Joe Flacco's making it game 7. Then they go Dillon Gabriel. I think Dillon Gabriel is going, after 2 or 3 games, the team is going to go and say, we got to push Shedeur in. And that's what I'm banking on. I know that when it comes to like excitement and when it comes to just the ability to watch the Browns, I'm a Browns fan. I'm watching them anyway. But I know that excitement is going to ramp up a lot once he gets out there. And also, just to put a bow on this, I think this will be the Browns falling into something good. This will not be something they plan. Because to me, it seems like the Browns were very comfortable with going into the year with their QB room being Pickett, Flacco, and Dillon Gabriel. And that would have been an epic failure. So I feel like they're just falling into this situation that could turn around for them, not based on their competence. So let me know what y'all think about that. Shout out to everybody for being here. Shout out to everybody for tapping into the chat. Shout out to y'all for being active with y'all comments. I will be live. I'll be doing a listening party tomorrow. Like, comment, subscribe so you get that notification. the game starts at 1. I'll probably go live maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the game, just so you can watch the game on your TV and you can tap in with some other people who are watching the Browns game. I will be giving my live analysis as it's happening. That's one thing that I know that people can't do. So I make sure that, I'm showing y'all what I can do in real time. So real time, I'm breaking it down, and I'm letting y'all know how I see things, how I view things. So I definitely appreciate everybody for tapping in today. I appreciate everybody for being here. This has been Off the Record D. This is Eliminate the Gray. I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.